Did you just throw your phone?
No, I did not throw the phone.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to another episode of Beg Pardon. As always, I'm your host Anthony, joined by Carlos, and welcome to the show. So, how's it going, Carlos? How are you?
Good. I got everything set up for...
Good.
Yeah, I don't know why I laid it out like that. I got everything set up, though, for class tomorrow. First day of class coming up.
Nice.
So I got all my stuff set up. I got my new laptop set up, which I had the same laptop since I started at Kent, which was like 5 years ago, question mark, something like that. Mm-hmm. And I've had the same laptop. This brand new laptop, I mean, this thing can sing. It is so fast compared to the other one. The other one's an Oldsmobile compared to this charger I got here.
I really want like a desktop, like a new crispy desktop, like
a gaming desktop?
Yeah, kind of. Because I play Skylines, and like you need a lot. The game does a lot, so you need a lot.
It's a deep game.
Yes. So like I keep on looking. We have a channel on the Discord where we talk about like tech and stuff like that, and you can ask everyone questions on like what are the best computers to get and stuff like that. And they're expensive. Mm-hmm. Like if you want something nice, it's expensive.
This laptop wasn't cheap. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah, might as well have been about as much as a charger. So
I mean, Kai probably got an Oldsmobile for what I paid.
Right. So this week, along our fear episode. Speaking of fear, have you played Among Us?
I have, and there's a lot going on there.
Panic-inducing. Well,
yes.
So like I was telling my friend, I was like, I am fine playing that game until like I become like the imposter, and then I get anxiety, like super super bad anxiety, because like I don't want to get like caught or whatever. And so many times I've like killed somebody and like popped into a vent, and then like obviously the other people can't vent. Only imposters can like vent, and then I'll like pop into another room like right in front of somebody else. I'm just like, and then they run, and I'm like, no, and then I have to like try to run and kill them before they get to the button.
You're like, damn.
That's happened, and I've walked in on somebody else, like, and I wasn't the imposter, and I walked in on somebody else being killed, and I was just like. And then I tried to run to the little cafeteria area to like hit the button, and then he chased me, but for some reason like I couldn't like hit the button. Like I don't know why I couldn't hit the button. So I'm like running around the table, and then I run back into the room. And then I like acknowledge like the body, because I was like, you can acknowledge the bodies that way. Yeah. So I was like, acknowledge the body, and then we ended up voting him out or whatever, but then he asked me like in the chat for the beginning of the next game, he was like, you were running for your life, like why didn't you report the crime to begin with, because you walked literally right into me like snapping their neck. Yeah. And I was like, I was in shock. I just saw a murder, like I didn't know what to do. But it's like, it's a little addicting game. It is.
You act like you actually saw it in real life. You're like, I didn't know.
Well, some of the people, the way they talk, it's like they saw it in real life. Like somebody will hit the button, like white. She'll hit the button, and then she'll be like, "It was orange. It was orange." Like he was trying to kill me. He was trying to kill me.
And he was my friend.
And we're like, orange, and he was like, I wasn't trying to kill her. Like I thought she was trying to kill me. And we're like, what? Like, but you were chasing her. So obviously he was like, she got away. I was like, how sick. But I mean, that's like panic inducing for me. That's fear. That should be the topic of the episode. It's Among Us. But kind of to segue into things that we're afraid of. We're both in a position now, and I know that you mentioned on previous episodes, we're both in a position now with like some real life fear and starting over.
Yeah. Yep.
Fresh. Like I don't know. I think that it would be cool if we take like, how did we get here? It'd almost be nicer if I could...
Question I asked myself multiple times.
I was about to say it'd be nicer if I could comment on like how, like at what point in my should I have turned right or left instead of continuing straight. I'm sure between the two of us we could figure it out.
I don't know why. I just imagine in my head like a little like 8-bit version of yourself coming to a fork in the road and then just going straight off of a cliff instead of turning right or left.
Because that's what I did. So to give you guys a rundown, I'll start. Like, you know, I think a lot of where we end up in life is a mixture of like luck, happenstance, some deliberate action.
Yeah.
But like it's like a culmination of like a bunch of things. You know, I had my first job whenever I was 15, and I worked at McDonald's. 14 or 15. I had to get like a little thing from the school saying that I was allowed to work, and then I could only work certain hours, and then I couldn't like touch money or the grill until I was older. I was like, what's the point? I'm just changing. I was just changing like the ice cream thing. And if you ever worked at McDonald's, I mean, that ice cream, it comes in like a little bladder sack. Like this little, it comes in like, and then you empty the little sack into the ice cream machine, and it apparently like makes it cold and turns it into ice cream. But I had a lot of experience with that, and I mean they're big though, so that I would like and like pour it all over me or like fall on the floor with it, and yeah,
It's like an I Love Lucy episode.
they were big. I was little. There was a time.
You were 14. You weren't like 4.
Well, yeah, but they were still like 30 or 40-pound bags.
Okay.
I was a young boy. And I mean, like, but I loved that job. And it taught me, aside from being my first job ever, it taught me like to work hard. And you know, I could say that was like a catalyst for like what was to come, more deliberate actions. But yeah, that was my first job. Was McDonald's. I almost said Dairy Queen. McDonald's.
My first actual job, I thought about it after we talked about this. My first actual job, I didn't stay long, was at a BJ's Wholesale, like Costco's. And I was a cashier, and it didn't last long because this one, like, I don't know, man. If you have water or something underneath, I'm not checking. I'm just scanning what's on the belt, man. I ain't a police officer. So like there were like too many items that have like skipped through that they caught at the thing, and they had to come back to guest relations or customer service and be like, well, he didn't charge me for this water, and I was still within like my probation period, and they were like, dude, pay more attention, and I was like, nah, I'm not. So I got fired from that job, and I immediately started overnight at Walmart right next door because they were like attached, the two buildings. And I started at the Walmart right next door.
You got fired and you went right into customer service at Walmart and just sat down at the little computer and applied.
Yeah. I was like, well, now what? So I went there and I did overnight, and I loved that job. I met a lot of cool people, and I'm really upset I didn't stay in contact with some of them because some of them were the coolest people I ever met. But you really learn about life working overnight because that's either people are working a second job because they have to help pay for XYZ, or people are like, I just want a little walking around money, or that's just like their thing. Like they've always worked overnights, and the store's closed, so you're kind of, it's a weird feeling. Like it's a really surreal feeling. But the craziest was we worked Black Friday, Thanksgiving Day into Black Friday, and instead of working 10 to 7, like 10 p.m. to 7 a.m., we worked 5 p.m. Thanksgiving Day to like 8 or 9 the next day on Black Friday.
Hell.
And it was exhausting. And my buddy, we all had like our pocket knives to cut, and he was cutting open like the pallet that had the board games and everything. And I just hear him in this sea of people screaming like, I have a knife, as he's like cutting open this pallet. And Walmart hired security because people were so rowdy. And this lady grabbed the Game of Life, and they were like tugging, like fighting over it. And then this lady just cocked back and popped her right in the face.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh hell. I was just like running through Walmart. I was like Among Us. I was like, I saw a crime.
Looking for the button.
Yeah.
That like I'm interested to see what Black Friday is going to look like COVID style.
It might be worse.
Yeah. I'd be coming in there with like Lysol, just macing motherfuckers.
Doing God's work.
Yeah, just spraying them out. My second job, it was like a call center. It was a call center. And it was rough. It was a political call center, which I enjoyed, but the people that I called didn't enjoy it. Yeah, so I would call at dinner time, the most inappropriate times, and ask them like, so like you're in the 2nd Congressional District in like Colorado or wherever. Are you voting? Like, who do you plan to vote for? And they're like, why are you calling me during dinner? Like, do you have no self-respect? Like, they'd say the sickest shit to me. I've had people tell me like, I wish you were dead. And I was like, I don't even know you. Like, they get real savage. Or they'll just try to play with you, like mess with you. Yeah. There was a handful, like maybe 10 people a night that were really into it and like decent about it. And then like, yeah. And I had to work. And we also did like telemarketing for, like we did contract work. So like, I'm calling on behalf of like Notre Dame University or wherever. Alumni, we're raising money for the alumni, and they're like, would you like to give? And then they're like, no, I haven't been to that university in X amount of years or whatever. And we had rules, like with anything, whether it's the questions or money or anything, like we had to do 3 asks no matter what. Yeah, so there were seriously moments where I was like, ma'am, like I know that you didn't go to the university and your husband did, and I know that he recently is dead. Because she would be like, my husband passed away like recently, like we're not giving anymore or whatever like that. But I was like, what a great way to commemorate his life by giving to the university. That was like really sick. We would have people like crying on the phone, like, why are you doing this? And I'm like, in my mind, I'm like, please hang up.
Yeah, like, why are you still on the phone?
I was like, they're listening to me. I can't do anything. Like, please hang up.
Ugh.
It was probably the worst job I ever had. That was the worst job I ever had.
I would hate myself.
Yeah. I mean, I already do, but you threw that in there.
That's where it started, you could say.
Yeah.
Second job for me was Home Depot. Back to overnight. I started in Bellport, New York, in Long Island. And that boy was big. It was 2 floors.
You liked working overnight? Like, your body adjusted well to that?
Yeah. I blacked out once. Like, for a brief second. I was like, what happened? I was working at Walmart, and I was putting stuff away. And next thing I know, I'm on the ground. And my box was, like, spilled over all over my chest. Like, the little, like, knives or whatever I was putting away is, like, all over my chest. And my chain, like, broke. Like, my chain was open. And my medallion's on the ground, and I'm just laying there. And my friend's like, dude, it's our lunch break. What happened? And I was like, where the hell am I? Like, I had no idea what happened.
Oh, my God.
But once I adjusted, like, it was fun. And then Home Depot was fun because it was freight too, but Home Depot is freight, and Walmart's very different. Like, Home Depot is basically a warehouse. And it's a different feeling. So then once I got to Ohio in Streetsboro, I learned all the machines, and I was just like, I mean, me and this machine are bonded. Like, I knew everything
like a
about
horse.
it. Yeah. I was like, how you doing, girl? Like, but yeah, I did all the machines, and it was cool. And then I did a machine called, I think it was the OP machine is what it was called. And you're like harnessed into this suit, like a paragliding suit basically, and it's hooked up to the machine. So as you're driving around, there's like levers that you pull and twist.
So it has like a. Go ahead, continue.
It has like an old like arcade system, like that kind of stick, but then a stick that you can go in a circle to spin. So those are the 2 that you're moving around. But you're on like this long flatbed, so you can put like the water heaters or the refrigerators or anything on there, and then hit the lever, and it takes you all the way up to the ceiling, so you can put them up top. So I remember I was doing that, and I was putting it up top, and my foot slid, and I was just hanging, like dangling off this thing, like like above all these aisles. Yeah, that was rough, but it was fun because the store was closed. So yeah.
Did it have like a forklift or something on it? What did it have?
No, not that one. That one was just.
Did it have like? How did you pick up items?
It was literally like a flatbed. so it went straight to the ground,
and then you would scoop them up.
Yeah, or you would just like shimmy them like this.
In my mind, I envisioned you on like a longer flatbed. There was like, but you were in the front, like kind of being able to drive it and like control it, and there was like a longer flatbed, but the back had like a scorpion like tail that was like a claw game thing, and like you could just use it to like put stuff on your belt. And I was like, oh my god.
No, the forklifts and stuff was cool too, but that wasn't like that. I'm gonna be a lot more entertaining though if it was like a crane game. Until you drop the paints, then it's not as fun anymore.
I worked in like a real sick binder warehouse, like a binder factory, or like a the 3-ring binders.
Yeah,
we make them for like hotels and stuff like that. Absolutely no regulations at all. Absolutely none. No ventilation. No nothing. I learned how to screen print there, which was nice. We used to do like Comfort Inn and Suites. Mm-hmm. We did like their binders. And like it was kind of cool, like mixing all the colors and creating like that doesn't look like their orange. Like it was kind of cool to like mix everything together and like come out with like a perfect picture. And then like you just, once you get the right color combinations, then you can just like set it and not forget it, but like you would set it and then like the press would lift and then you get the binders and you're like boom, and then it'd fall, boom, boom, and like over and over and over again. And then they had the rivet machines that put the rivets in the rings, and they were super old, like literally like rusty. And then you'd have to like reach in and like hit these 2 buttons on the side, and then it'd like slam them. And I don't know how many injuries those caused.
Oh.
Yeah, it was rough. But you know that job, that's where I also learned how to drive like a little pallet jack. So that was nice, like the little ones that you sit in and you're like, ah.
Yeah.
So that was cool, but it was like, I don't know, it was kind of a rough job because like it was just super repetitive, like super repetitive. Nothing was new. I mean, like we're like, oh look, we're doing like a little porn company's binders today, or we're doing like a little horse show, or a little hotel, or like that was literally the only thing that changed. Horse, like the Derby. Oh, I thought he said a horror show.
Yeah, I was like, what is that?
No. I mean, it might have made the job more interesting. Like, look at that graphic image on there. Yeah, look at that. Is that her skin tone? You got that nice, Anthony. Good job. Thank you.
Oh, God. All right. Let me see. I worked after the Home Depot. I worked at the Akron Beacon Journal newspaper.
Nice.
In the sports section. Probably the most open, like free type of environment I've worked in, because as long as you got your paper done, it didn't matter. You could watch the game to make sure it was done. You could watch Netflix. You could do your homework, which is really good for somebody who's still in school. Do your homework.
Did you just put the stats, or did you get like to put like your opinion in it?
No. Just the stats. I wasn't a journalist. I was literally the guy who put together like the actual box score page. So there's like a template that you do, and some of us would fill in the blanks on the template to put like the scores in for the high school and the college games. But then the pro games, you just copy and paste it from somewhere else, and it just like fit the formatting and everything. And you just had to make sure you didn't go over your lines so that you could send it in and the paper was done. But when you were the one who was filling in the blanks, it was always like really because you would get a phone call and the coach would be like, hey, I'm calling in from blah blah blah, and Jackson had a great game tonight, blah blah blah, and I'm like, oh cool. And then you get a call and he'd be like, did they already call on the score for team A and team B? And you'd say, no, not yet. And he's like, oh, damn it, all right, where's my playbook? Damn it. Yeah, so this many points for so-and-so. And I was like, because then you have to get notes for the people who are writing the articles. And you'd be like, was there anything noteworthy? And like, they'd be like, not from our team. Yeah, and I'm like, ooh.
That's uncomfortable.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun. I worked with a lot of like fun people, and it was just a really great time, to be honest.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Next was probably my like foray into hotels, and I worked. You know, I started out at the front desk at a hotel and housekeeping, and I don't know. I much rather prefer. I've worked almost every position like in a hotel, and I liked probably housekeeping the most, to be honest.
Not me.
I liked it because I could could be in my own space, especially if I was a housekeeper. Can be in my own space. You know, I come up with like little stories for all the families, so I'd be in the rooms and like
You've
especially
talked
if I
about
do
the Instacart.
yeah, especially if I do like stayovers, and like I see like a cheap bottle of wine or something like on the cabinet, and I know there's two people in the room because you can see that there's items for like two different people. I'd be like, man, like he doesn't have a lot because he just started his career and he just graduated college, but man, he loves this girl and he's really trying to he's really trying to show her a good time, and you know, maybe we can put a little something in here. Maybe we can help him out a little bit. But yeah, like I loved just doing stuff like that because I don't know, it was just I was in my own little world, I was in my own little space. And then hotels basically occupied my time for the better part of almost a decade. So that's basically where it was.
I was gonna say, yeah, you stayed in
there. That's the fork. That's where I should have. That's where I went off the cliff and kept going. That was it.
Yeah, there was a couple of times you could have veered off the hotel path and you just went deeper down the rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Shortly after the Beacon, actually at the same time as the Beacon, I was working in hotels with you, actually, which we covered numerous times. But during that time, I worked the hotel, I worked the Beacon, I worked as a Sunday school teacher and a baseball coach all at the same time. So, and my wife and I never knew what it was like to not work two jobs at least. We always worked two jobs at least. Mm-hmm. For years we did that. And then I trimmed it down because I was like, this is way too many jobs. So I stayed at the hotel. And in between there, I did the Disney College program for the first time. Fell in love with it. Loved it. Hotels, I knew I was going to be in hotels for a while, but I knew I wasn't going to stay in there forever. Because I was very vocal on here and even privately with you that I didn't want to be in hotels more than 3 years.
Right.
So I stayed in hotels and I worked down here in Disney and became one of the 28,000 who were laid off. And the good Lord told me, you said you didn't want to be in hotels more than 3 years, man. And he sped that up. He sped that up for me.
He's like, you're welcome.
Yeah, he's like, I'm not here to thank you here. I'm hearing a lot of crying about it, if anything. But
tears of gratitude.
Exactly. But that did give me the opportunity to take the fork in the road, basically, because that was the only road I had open, to do this visual effects program that my wife and I are doing that starts tomorrow, where we are learning all about digital animation, visual effects. So all the cool things you see in movies, TV shows, Pixar stuff, we're learning all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, starting tomorrow. So that's kind of the fear of it's a completely different industry. I've never dipped my toe in this industry, as you've heard from other jobs. Never once did I say I was even an extra. Oh, I was an extra in a movie, but I was never like a production assistant or nothing. And now I'm going into this world of like, do you have the cells for blah, blah, blah? What about the schematics for, and do you have the animation and the layout? And I'm just like, So
it's always like scary to start like new careers, like, and mine too. I mean, like I was gonna go into, I didn't know for sure that I was gonna stop working in hotels. But whenever we moved back down to Houston, I struggled in finding like a role, and then COVID happened, so it was over. And E was like, hey, well, if you're still passionate about performing and acting and stage and TV and film, like, why don't you do it? And then I was like, by God, this is the time. And I mean, that industry was super hard too, but it was a good time to start something new. Yeah. And it was a good time to, put myself out there. And I'm in the same boat as you. Like, you just don't know anything.
Right.
You don't know anything. They're like, all right, like slate for the camera and then profiles, and then they're like, no, your whole body, and I was like, so like you don't know because you've never done it, you've never experienced it before, and they're both, I thought us being in hotels was like competitive. Welcome to the show. Like this
Shocking.
is this is really intense. Yeah. So I think that it's going to be a fun journey. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be miserable at the same time. And I think that just like being patient is hard for me, but it's just something I'm going to have. I mean, like we said, I mean, it took the better part of a decade to really establish myself in hotels.
Yeah.
I'm not anticipating that it won't take that in any other career.
Yeah.
I'm just lucky that I'm young. We're lucky that we're young. We're lucky that we're still in our 20s.
Yeah, thankfully. Because, I don't know. Had this not happened, I don't know if I would have been able to walk away from the hotel and do this career. Because I've always kind of wanted to do something like this. I never knew how to break into it because everyone always like, well, that's not a real degree when we were going to school. So you had to get what, quote unquote, was a real degree and play the game. So I think this kind of forced me out of my comfort zone and was like, you're not going to leave unless I do this, man. So God was kind of like, the door's closed. Yeah, he's like, the door's closed. You can't go back. You can go back to the company, but you can't go back to that door. And like you said, it's terrifying because we don't know. Like, we knew hotels. And we knew that quick. Like, we learned that pretty quick. So all I can hope is that we can learn these new things pretty quick, which I'm not worried about either one of us not learning it, but I think it's just so surreal to think like I knew I wasn't going to walk away from hotels had I not been forced to. You weren't going to walk away from hotels had you not basically been forced to. But I think walking away from hotels was probably the better decision that we made, because my biggest fear professionally was one day I'm going to wake up in my 40s and be like, how did I get here? I'm still in a hotel and I'm still doing this job that I didn't want to really do.
But now you have to, because now you have, your family's bigger and you have a mortgage and you have,
Yeah. And I got one foot in the grave. I might as well, I'm close to midlife crisis at that point. Assuming that I live to be 100 and something, if my midlife is like.
I'm about to say, I think you're entering the golden years.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's good that it happened. It sucks that it happened, but it's also good that it happened, and it's good that we're both. It's ironic that we're both in the same industry, just different sides. Again, you're always in front of the camera, I'm behind the camera. In the hotels, you were more behind the scenes later on with the numbers and everything, and I was more in the front with the operations and stuff later on. But I think at some point we're always doing this dance where one of us goes to an industry and the other one's like, hey, if you don't mind, I'm going to come join.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't necessarily say we're in a position where one of us does that, because you entered my hotel last time and now you're entering my career. So it's more of you following exactly what I do. And that's the show, everyone.
That's how he came up with the show, too. He said, I'm going to start a podcast. I said, not without me.
Right. What a sad life. So guys, we want to hear from you. A lot of us lost jobs or weren't able to enter careers that we've been accustomed to during this time because of the pandemic. Did it happen to you? If you feel comfortable talking about it, and kind of what are you looking towards now? What what your plan is, and if you don't have a plan, that's okay too. But what that situation looks like for you guys. But as always, thank you guys so much for tuning in every single week, especially for this, history, hall of history of our lives, I guess, our careers.
Yeah, careers.
Our careers. Yeah.
Maybe we'll do our lives. We'll start out. We were born at this time. I don't think we should. Yeah.
So it was 4:32 a.m. on March 30th. Yeah.
Scream rang out to the hallways.
Right. Yeah. A very deep, manly scream rang out in the halls.
But if you enjoyed the episode, feel free to like and subscribe to the video. That way you can see all of our other videos that come up, especially the water cooler series. That we'll be covering a bunch of different topics, particularly the debates lately, which I don't know if we're going to be able to cover those because they're not happening. But if you prefer the audio version, we're available on a plethora of platforms. I always run down the list. I know, that's the word of the day, folks, plethora. And I even said it right the first time, so.
Yeah, because you probably practiced it a couple times before the show.
I definitely did. But we're available on Amazon, Apple Podcast, Google Play sometimes not. If we're there, check us out on Google Play, Amazon Music, and a couple other places too. But that will do it for us on this week's Hall of History. As always, he's been Anthony. I've been Carl. So remember, just pick yourself up one foot in front of the other. Until next time.